You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video, we have a special guest. This is Sally, he's my boyfriend, and he works as a PWP. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little Q&A so that we learn about what PWP does, how you get the job, Sally's experience, and yeah, hopefully you guys find the video useful. So Sally, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I am a psychological wellbeing practitioner, recently qualified in January. What was it, February?
I think it was the end of January.
End of January, so I've been working as a full-time PWP since then.
Could you tell us a little bit about what PWP actually is and what they do and where they work?
Yeah, so PWP stands for Psychological Wellbeing Practitioner, and we largely, but not exclusively, work for IAPT, which stands for Improving Access to Psychological Therapies, and it's a sort of subset of the NHS, a pathway to mental health. And as a PWP, you're expected to deliver low intensity interventions that are primarily based on CBT techniques, but is often sort of put forward as guided self-help.
If a patient was to access the IAPT service, what would happen is they first get called and they have like an assessment, don't they?
Yeah.
Like a screening assessment, and then depending on their need, they'll either be offered computerized CBT, step 2, which is what you do, the PWPs, low intensity CBT, or proper CBT therapy, which is step 3. Is that right?
Yeah, that's sort of right. There is quite a little bit of jargon involved in the PWP and IAPT world, like step 2, step 3. All step 2 means is that it's a low intensity intervention, so it can be covered by computerized CBT or PWP work and guided self-help, where step 3 is a sort of step up. So if a patient presents with more complexity or chronicity with their problem, then we would consider step 3, which could be full-on CBT or even counselling or EMDR. And I know a few other IAPT services offer different type of interventions too.
Step 3 interventions, yeah.
They even offer different step 2 interventions, but for the main part, you're talking step 2 is guided self-help. So that's where you guide the patient through self-help material based on CBT techniques. And also step 3, which is full-on CBT essentially. So longer sessions. And so more often.
Step 2 lasts for like 6 to 8 weeks, doesn't it? And a step 3 intervention would last for how long?
Anywhere between 12, I think, is the minimum, to 20 weeks. Yeah.
And a lot of people, after they have worked as a PWP for a couple of years, might apply for a high intensity role, mightn't they?
Yeah, so you have to work for 2 years as a PWP before you can apply to the high intensity training, which essentially is another jargon term for CBT therapist. So you go from low intensity, which is a PWP, to high intensity, which is a CBT therapist. But you have to work for 2 years before you can
apply.
Before you can be respected enough to apply.
Okay, how did you go about finding your job, and what experience did you have before you applied?
I had little experience, to be fair, beforehand, but that little experience I did have was quite crucial because I was working as an honorary assistant psychologist, which basically means an unpaid assistant psychologist. I was working
within IAPT,
within an IAPT service. I was working 1 day a week doing triage assessments, but this meant I could work alongside PWPs within the IAPT system.
And how did you find that role?
So that was on a university placement at UCL during our master's course in health psychology. I understand, unfortunately, now they have stopped actually giving out honorary assistant psychologist posts within IAPT. at least that's the last thing I heard, was that they are no longer doing that, which is really unfortunate, but they are quite lenient with what experience they do accept when applying to becoming a trainee PWP.
I actually also got offered a PWP role, and the experience that I had before I applied wasn't huge amounts. I'd mostly worked research-wise, and then I had worked as a peer support worker facilitating groups for Mind, which was all free. And then, through talking with Sali, I kind of knew quite a lot about the IAPT service and about PWP work. And so I think that really helped me in my application, because I could show that I knew what the role was about. Yeah,
you had a good insight, didn't you?
Yeah. Okay. And so how do people if someone wants to apply for a PWP role, how do they go about doing that?
If someone wants to apply for a trainee PWP role, I should preface this by saying, to become a PWP, you have to train for 1 year. Now, this 1 year is fully paid on Band 4 NHS salary, and you would be expected to, on average, be studying 1 to 2 days a week and working the remaining days. And to apply onto this course, you have to go through university and apply onto what's called a low intensity cognitive behavioural interventions postgraduate certificate, which is quite a
So that's different to what I did then. So you went through the university and applied on a university site.
Yeah.
And then how did you find the job that went along with it? Did you have to apply for that separately?
Well, within the application process to the university, you tick where you would like to be based.
Okay.
Now, I missed this part of the application, so they just put me down the place where I was working as a default, because they already knew I was there.
Okay.
But I do understand you applied through a different route, but most people apply through the university route. But maybe you can explain a little bit more about that, because...
So can I just get a bit clearer? So how did you find that on the university website? What was it called again?
It was called a low intensity cognitive behavioural interventions postgraduate certificate.
Okay.
So it's a postgraduate certificate, a PG cert in low intensity interventions.
So if you were to just Google that, then hopefully do you think it would come up on like university websites?
Yeah, it'll come up on university websites, and there should be a sort of message on that page suggesting when to check up on this website for when applications are open.
Okay. And so what I did is I was on the NHS jobs website, and I literally just typed in trainee psychological wellbeing practitioner, and I applied for the role directly through there. I applied for quite a few roles through there actually, and I got offered the position and never actually had to go through a university. So I guess that's good to know that there's two options, isn't there?
Yeah, it's quite cool. But you were still going to study at a university?
You still have to do the studying.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know if it was at a university as such, but you still have to do the training and the learning.
Yeah.
It's no different really.
Yeah.
Okay, so as you were saying, the training year is on Band 4, and then once you graduate as a qualified psychological wellbeing practitioner, you're working on Band 5, aren't you? NHS Band 5. Okay, should we get going with the actual questions?
Yeah, let's see what the Instagram folks have been asking.
I asked my Instagram if they had any questions that they would like to ask, so that's what we're going to go through now. Right, so one of them's actually already covered. How did you go about finding the training? So that one
through the UCL website.
Through the UCL website,
yeah.
And I found mine from the NHS Jobs website. And I think that if you're going through NHS Jobs, then just check, because some of the trainee posts might say, "Oh, you have to apply through university." So just read and check and make sure.
Just do your research.
What are your top tips for the interview process?
I'd say number one, well, first thing is read the person's specifications. Another tip is go on Twitter, follow trainee psychological wellbeing practitioners and ask them as well. I've had a few PWPs message me, and whenever I've had time to reply to them, I have done. Secondly or thirdly, even check Instagram as well and ask Natalia. She'll be more than eager to help out.
I would say also with where you just said check the person specification, something that I found really useful was when you're going through thinking of an example of where you've met that thing in the past, and then as a sort of practice try and be reflective of that example. So if you've run groups in the past, or if you've worked with people who are suffering from depression or something in the past, then think about what you did, think about what you learned from that, how you found it, etc. And that will hopefully really help you in the interview process.
Just think of as many examples as you can that relate to certain aspects of the person's specifications.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you should be onto gold.
And I think that something else is that if in the interview process they ask you, if in the interview process you're going to have to do a role play, I would say, and I think that you would agree with this, that the role play that they're most probably going to do is an assessment or a risk assessment. Do you think that's right?
I didn't do any role plays in mine.
Okay.
Did you do some in yours?
Yeah, and it was an assessment role play, and I think that that's the only thing that they would, because that helps them to assess sort of like what you understand about what a person might experience, risk, and also your friendliness. What's that called?
Empathy.
Yeah.
Attunement.
Yeah,
rapport building.
Yeah, your rapport building.
I think clear up on risk, so risk management and risk planning, so thinking about a person's suicidal ideation. Is it just plans, or do they have intent? Maybe you could ask on a scale of 0 to 10, how much do you intend on killing yourself, just to gauge the severity of the ideation. Ask if they've actually made any plans or preparations.
If you Google IAPT PWP assessment, there's a whole thing that comes up of like the main points that a PWP would cover in an assessment. So just have a look and see. Okay. So, go on.
I was just going to say, if you do get a question about risk, there's never too little you can sort of cover, and never make judgments prior to actually knowing or asking questions about the risk, because if you do that, then that can come across quite badly, because risk is one of those critical areas. Like, you could smash the interview, but if you don't quite get it on risk, then you can be heavily penalised for that.
Yeah, that's important. I guess maybe you wouldn't be so heavily penalised in a trainee position, but...
Yeah, maybe not.
But for a full PWP job, you definitely would be. So 2 other things that I would say for the interview process is think about how you can increase why certain groups might have trouble accessing services.
Yeah.
And think about time management and how you manage your time and why you're good at time management. Think about things that you do in your spare time and how you switch off from work and recharge. And also think about groups and group work and important aspects that you would consider in group work, because all of those kind of came up across all of my interviews. And I've heard other people say that they come up a lot as well, so yeah.
Can I add another 2 points? Think about how you'd carry out yourself professionally, and also think about how COVID might have impacted rapport building or just clinical work in general.
Yeah, good one.
Hello there everybody, editing Nat here. So I actually decided to end the video here because it's a half-hour video, so I'm going to split it in two. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed what we've spoken about so far. Make sure that you leave any questions down below so that either me or Sally can answer them. And yeah, stay tuned for all the other questions that are in the next video. Yeah, thank you for watching and see you later. Bye!